So a number of you say, oh, I want to hear some old stories, and you know, we wanted you to hear from Platinums because they've just recently been there, yeah? Some of them very recently. That's why they're here as their Platinum reward. But we also wanted you to hear some of the old stories, just so that you have some comparison. And so it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, 3-star diamond, Manfred.
Right, so storytelling. I hope you don't fall asleep. I was inspired by what David said before, that we've been here for 13 years, and 13 years ago we launched a startup called Lifeforce. Well, the truth of that is 15 years ago we started Lifeforce, and 13 years ago we started Lifeforce. So with DTC, we're in the first year. Nothing happens, it's foundation. When they build a skyscraper, the foundation is underground. By the time you see the first floor, it goes up really fast. And a lot of people are judging DTC by what they see now. And that's not the way to go with the startup. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of what Lifeforce was like the first 2 years, when it didn't officially exist. And that was, God, Swanee also talked about integrity. And Swanee and I were in another network marketing company before Lifeforce. And he wasn't my sponsor. I was on his second level. And as the rules go, and we talked about rules this morning, if you do another network marketing company, well, no company can say you can't talk to anybody about it, but it's totally out of integrity to talk to people that you didn't personally bring in, right? So the people you introduced, when you're moving over here, you can tell them, but you can't go to their people, right? And that was the situation, because Swanee started, and he also said something about intuition, and when your focus goes off, your people will notice. Well, that's what happened to me. Michael and Krista arrived in Golden Bay, and within days I knew something was brewing up. There was some shift in Swanee. He wasn't as available, he wasn't as enthusiastic. Something changed. I kept saying, Swanee, what's going on? Oh, no, you know, but he wouldn't tell me. And after a few days I said, Swanee, you got to tell me what's going on. He said, maybe you want to talk to Krista about it. So my first conversation about Lifeforce was with Krista, because he couldn't tell me about it. And the other guy was in between us, wasn't interested. So, no, I've been 3 years looking as a biodynamic gardener, my wife and I living in the garden, eating what I thought was the best possible food on the planet. And 3 years before that, my wife was pregnant, and we were told we're mineral deficient. So several tests, it was all confirmed, we're both very deficient in minerals, and we were living out of our own garden. So the whole time for those 3 years I was looking for, why are we mineral deficient? Where's the food that we can take to make up for it? And I found nothing. The only liquid organic whole food, or I don't even know if it was organic in those days, Floridex, coming from Germany after Chernobyl. Was the safest thing to give to my wife when she was pregnant, because everything else came out of the laboratory. So finally, Krista, I'd known Krista for over 15 years before that, and Krista was always ahead of the trend. Like, she talked about spirulina when nobody has heard the word before, and she talked to us, her friends, about it, and we said, it's green, it's slimy, it tastes horrible, and it's expensive. Forget about it, nobody will want spirulina. Well, it's just about in every coffee shop now, right? So when Krista shows up in Golden Bay, I say, what are you into now? And she says, I'm working with this little company in San Diego called Lifeforce, and they make a liquid organic whole food product made from 9 sea vegetables and aloe vera. It was like, that's what I've been looking for 3 years. Liquid, organic, whole food, 9 sea vegetables. I said, why aloe vera? Because aloe vera didn't grow where I lived then in the bush. So she said, the aloe vera takes the nutrients of the sea vegetables into the cells. And that was the missing key, because we've been eating seaweed every day because it was free food, and in our self-sufficient lifestyle that was great. But we didn't absorb it, we didn't digest it and break it down and activate those nutrients on a cellular level. So it was great bowel movement and made you feel less hungry. So it was great food, but we didn't get to what was in it. And the body balance was the magic, because all of a sudden we got to the nutrients in the seaweed. We just haven't got that digestive system. Huh? So I now believe strongly that the enzymes in the aloe vera is what breaks down the nutrients in the seaweed so that I can have it too. And so that was all it took. Krista, I loved her dearly, still do, right? But at that time, that was a yes. Now, the next step was, how can I get it? Well, they're here on holiday. They have to go back to America and see if the owners of Life Force will allow them to us for us to have it here. So it took a while. And I was waiting. So they got back to America, did the phone call. Okay, we placed the order. $780 on a credit card that they only had because of the other company that didn't really work. And so my wife got very nervous. $780 on a credit card that had a $1,000 limit at the time. And it took 6 weeks for the product to get here. So how are we gonna make this happen? I can't even remember the detail. But duplication from there was, if you wanted to join me in this amazing company, this amazing product that I was passionate about and talking about, you had to get $780 charged on your credit card twice before you got a taste. Now, by the time I was a little bit into it and I had the product, if I gave somebody a taste, I didn't have any that day, because they just got my little amount. And it didn't come in 8 nice blue bottles, it came in 2-gallon bottles. So what we did was take any nice 1-liter bottle, fill it in there. We had no labels, no brochures, no website. It was totally on trust that this is actually body balance, and I didn't water it down. And people would give me $100 for a liter. And that is my cost price. So if I wanted to make it more, it got even harder, right? But when people said it's too expensive, we used to say, compared to what? If you want to know what it would cost you, go to the health food shop. Just throw me a little, I don't care. Go to the health food shop and see what it would cost you to buy all this isolated synthetic, chemical, laboratory-made ingredients to get all the vitamins, all the minerals, and the enzymes to actually use them, and see how much it would cost you. And people would come back with anything between $230 and $350. Going to the health food shop, doing their homework. All these little bottles that they have so colorfully presented in the health food shop. Then they come back and say, well, this is actually cheap. Buy $100 worth. And because it was so special to us, it was like liquid gold, and for some of us it was liquid love, it was worth the $100. And people had amazing results on 1 liter a month, because we couldn't possibly talk about more, right, at that price. And what I recently learned, when I was traveling with Michael and Krista, there was a guy in the US, a practitioner, a doctor, and he gives people a sample bottle and says, you will fill this within 10 minutes. And people do. And if they don't, they feel stupid, because he said it so strong. That's what got Lifeforce off the ground. Everybody who had no relationship with us and no trust would say these guys are mad. This is never gonna happen, right? And so, but it was our belief, it was the trust in Michael and Krista. I didn't know Michael until we started business together, but Swan had told me all about this millionaire that is his mentor. And I wasn't into money then, but I was into my relationship with Krista. That was good enough to me. And we've built an amazing relationship since, Michael and I. But, God, it's such a long story. It was the power of that trust that we built this. So my whole business took off because I was a hermit for 10 years before that, and I wasn't born and bred in New Zealand. So here I am in New Zealand, coming out of 10 years in the bush and not knowing many people, a few musicians and arty people who weren't into business. And I rang my friend Heather in Auckland, who has 4 kids from 4 to 14, living in a house bus. And I said, Heather, I'm doing something with Krista. She was my main seller because anybody who knew Krista trusted her 100%. So that was all. I rang all these people that we knew from past associations. And Heather said, of course I want this for me and my kids, but how can I possibly do this? So she didn't say it's too expensive. She didn't say I can't possibly do it. She said, how can I do this? I said, Heather, together we can do this. I had the passion. I talked to anybody about it because I was, when you think you're eating the healthiest food on the planet and you have the healthiest lifestyle and you're the healthiest person on the planet and you get told you're mineral deficient, that shock was in all my cells. So I could tell anybody that they needed this product and really mean it. Right? I'd proven it. So I said to Heather, I'll talk to anybody. You're taking 4 kids from play center to high school, and after school, she was just driving this unregistered, unwarranted van through Auckland with her kids, running on magic to not get caught. Right? I said, everywhere you take the kids, you meet other mothers. I said, you go to the mothers in the fancy cars with the fancy jewelry, and you say, I found something that could really change your life. I can't afford it, but if you can, I'm a step closer. And every day we talked to people. And we both had no money to start with, so the telecom deal was off-peak, you had a $3 cap. And so I rang telecom and said, and that was from 6 p.m. or 10 p.m. to 8 in the morning. I said, if I'm on a call at 8, just before 8, and I go over, do I get charged per minute? They said, no, as long as you call before 8, it's $3. So I spent $3 a day on building this business with Heather. 5 to 8, I ring Heather, we both say good morning, we put the phone down. Then she takes the kids to school and makes all these appointments with these other mothers. At 10, we both hit the phone saying, okay, how was your morning? And from 10 till 2, we were working Auckland. I was in the South Island, like 1,000 kilometers away. Right? She had an endless amount of people for me to talk to, and every day she did that work. And I couldn't have done it without her, she couldn't have done it without me. This one single mom with 4 kids. And she worked all night making jewelry to sell at the market, so she was very, very depleted at that time already. But she had this vision, you know, to get this legacy for her children, which we're now still building because she ran herself too low and ended up with cancer and isn't here with us anymore. But her business is still growing, and one day she'll be crowned diamond in life. So that was how I got well, I got this lurgy. Not the usual me, but I used to smoke. That was the other thing. When I was in this other company, smoking was really suitable because it wasn't a health company. And I ordered this $780 box that my wife said, "You can't do a health business and smoke." I said, "The day that box arrives, I stop smoking." And I did. The box arrived and smoke went out the window. Now every time I'm getting to smoke like here, those burning fields, my lungs think I'm smoking again. And they start feeling like I smoked 10 cigars. And so every day I got worse and worse with this cough until I couldn't really go. It's this body balance.
Full gargling. Excellent full throat.
Thank you. It's only one thing better than water. It's body balance. How much time have I got? What else do you want me to tell?
Your story.
Just tell the next bit about how Life Force actually came eventually.
Well, at some point Wayne Hillman said, if you turn over 100,000 US a month, we'll open up. And that just took us just about 2 years to turn over 100,000 US.
Between the two countries.
BV. Oh yeah, immediately when you look from the US or from Europe at the world map, New Zealand is an island off Australia, right? And that's why the office is in Sydney, and New Zealand is kind of always running on TGA rules. Thank you very much. So yeah, it was really the Australian market that they were looking at, because they probably couldn't see New Zealand on that map when they looked. Yeah, Australasia, they call it. Doesn't have an N or a Z in it.
Don't forget about calling the office in America.
Oh, you want all that detail?
And
well,
the money, the checks that you got that you had to pay out.
Okay, well let me tell you this. Otherwise I just repeat what you said. So, the only person who could sign up people in Australasia NZ was Marvin Higby, was the CEO then. His secretary could take orders by fax. We got orders form filled out, faxed it to Krista. So somebody faxed me an order form. I could hardly read it, so I take the pen out and rewrite the whole order form and then fax it to Krista. Comes out very hard to read.
I did the same
She
thing.
did the same thing, faxed it to the one person in the office who could take an order from Australia and New Zealand. Every box that came would say the address all the way down to New Zealand, and underneath it, big United States of America. And when it said Auckland, sometimes the mail people thought it was, of course, had to be Oakland, California. So when the box didn't arrive in Auckland, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, oh, this box went to Auckland and that address didn't exist. And so the mistakes in spelling Kiwi and Aussie town names and addresses and the credit card numbers, there was just so much vulnerability there for getting it wrong. And of course, people have paid $780, and 6 weeks later they paid $780 again, and still no product. If we didn't have the trust at that point, you know, if they didn't know us well enough, they would ring LifeForce in the US and they would be told, sorry, we don't do business outside the United States. So, you know, that's what startup means. So when the money finally started coming, so you got a check in US dollars. It didn't say void like it does now because we get the New Zealand and Aussie dollars. We had to take that to the bank, pay something like $30, the bank would send it back to San Diego by mail, and then when it was confirmed, we got the money into our account.
Minus the $30.
Yeah, minus the $30 check clearance fee. So everything took a bit of time, everything cost a bit of money, and because none of us had any money to start with, we grew very fast. Because all the people we knew didn't have any money either. And so nobody joined as a customer, right? Well, there was a few customers that didn't mind the money, but all my friends needed to do this fast as a business. Like Cliff, well, there was only Cliff and Heather in the beginning, and then I had 2 customers. The main thing I want to say is from having that faith and total trust that this will work, and then having some success, the rest happened, right? The times I spent talking to 100 people a day, going through the phone book in any town, was just practice rejection. Practice dialing, nobody home, not interested, pyramid scheme, no? Like pyramid scheme. Good theme. So Swanee made me go to the beach. That was actually the hardest. I don't know if you heard that story, but at the very beginning we started in summer '99 in New Zealand. Swanee said, "There's lots of people at the beach. Let's go to the beach." Sunday, late morning Sunday, Swanee and I with shorts and nice shirt and a straw hat and a bag, walking down the beach. People were going, "Oh, hope these guys don't talk to me." And we would say, "Are you interested in health?" And I think by the time we said interested, it didn't matter what we said after that. We just said no. But it took me quite a few people before I could even say that. So Swanee, being the good upline, he had to do it because he told me to. So he says, "Okay, I'm going to do it." So he does one. And then he says, "Okay, next one's you." And I walk up to this person and say, "Go over there." And then he'd do another one, just to keep going, you know. So it was probably 3 or 4 of his before I could actually open my mouth and say to somebody, "Are you interested in health?" But then going home and ringing 100 people out of the phone book was easy. Because you didn't have to look at them, no? And they didn't know who you were if you met them. I could even do it locally because I had an accent anyway, they wouldn't know it was me. So I got really good at ringing a lot of people every day as a daily habit. And while I don't think any of those people are in my business now, but it's the action that created that vortex that brought in the people that are my leaders now. And I have an amazing team of people, but none of that are professionally qualified to be successful network marketers. Right? So if you look at the diamonds in my team, the platinums in my team, and so we're just ordinary people. Right? There's no qualification to be a successful network marketer. If there was, I wouldn't have qualified. I had no money. I've been in the bush for 10 years. I had long hair and a beard to cover from sandflies. Very practical reason. And yeah, I mean, I had a worse accent than now, and I certainly wasn't a public speaker. So those first presentations we did, where I came up and shared my story, I don't think anybody could relate to any part of my story, because what I was passionate about, nobody ever experienced. Living without money, in the bush, in the Buller Gorge. All people heard was Buller Gorge. I think I got famous for Buller Gorge. This is the guy from the Buller Gorge. But I got through that, and so attracted, out of the action I attracted the success, and I think that's really the key. You've got to get into action before the success comes.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.